Good afternoon, walk and talkers. We had such a fantastic discussion 2 weeks ago about Sarai and Abraham and the five O's. This is coming out of Genesis 11 and 12, and everyone added their own brilliance to the story once again, or their commentary, and everyone got something from it. Now, if you missed it, the five O's. Five O's consist of order, opportunity, opposition, obedience, and outcome. And just another quick summary is order is making sure you're living the life of the way Jesus patterned it. Opportunity has different opportunities and tasks for us to do using the talents that he has given us. Opposition is going to come every single time because we are doing what God has asked us to do. And as long as we're doing that, the enemy does not want us to succeed. So we are going to see some opposition. And then obedience is being obedient anyway. When opposition comes, it tries to lie to you, tries to derail you, but you continue to do what God told you or asked you to do. And then the outcome is whatever the results are, whether we made our mistakes along the way and we have to deal with the consequences, or we have done what God asked us to do and we have what the outcome that God had intended for us all along. All right, so when it comes to Abraham and Sarai, so as far as order, was Sarai living an ordered life? Was she living the life that God had intended for her to live? It looks like that's the case because they are following God's orders in the first place. God told them to leave, and Abram and Sarai actually leave and head towards Canaan like they were supposed to. The opportunity is for them to leave. Abram and Sarah did obey God and started heading towards Canaan. They actually reached Canaan. Opposition came while they're living in Canaan, in the Canaan area. A famine hit. So they needed to go find food. So they head towards Egypt. Obedience came for Sarai. Obedience came when Abram told Sarah to say that they were just siblings. They're not married. They're just siblings because Sarai was so beautiful. Abram knew he would be killed so that they could steal Sarai away from him. So she does so. She tells them that they are siblings. And the outcome, Sarah did end up in the palace with the king. And because Abram was her sibling, he was treated well for her sake. And he acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. So he received a lot of livestock while he was there. The other outcome is that Egypt was cursed because they had Sarai. And Pharaoh finally figured out that they were cursed because of Sarai and that Sarai and Abram were married. And the Pharaoh was like, what are you trying to do to me? Get out of here. So Abram and Sarai ended up leaving with all of the camels and sheep and the donkeys that they had acquired while in Egypt. And they were free to go back to their own land. So that is basically the story. The outcome of this story created a fantastic discussion among our walk and talkers. We had one camp who said, hey, Abram and Sarai were following God's directions and saying that they were siblings. And they weren't lying. They are actually siblings or half siblings, but they are siblings. So there's no lies there. The other side said, well, no, Abram was wrong for putting Sarah up to that to save his own skin. And with that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts. Anyone who's listening to this, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have something to add to the discussion, even if it comes to the outcomes, opportunities, how you would have divided up some of the opportunities they had, some of the decisions that they made, would love to hear them. Please make your comments below. And then tell us where you get your answers from in the Bible. That's how we study the Bible together and interpret the Bible together. All right, walk and talkers. So our next discussion, we are still on Sarai. So let's focus on Sarai and Hagar, and we're going to be coming from chapter 16. All right, and as you know, if you already know it, then you can turn the video off, but if not, I will follow up with Sarai and Hagar's story. See you soon. This is Genesis 15. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him, This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? So the Lord said to him, Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. Abram brought all these things to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Then birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, and Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. Genesis 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she's pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me. Your slave is in your hands, Abram said. Do with her whatever you think best. Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was a spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? I'm running away from Mistress Sarai, she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, Go back to your mistress and submit to her. The angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Beer Lai Roy. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael.